Rabbit here. So we're continuing our series on looking at Rust UI frameworks, and now we're going to have a look at, a very short look at Slint. So let's get into it. So let's look it up on crates.io. And we see that the latest version is 1.13.1, and quite a lot of downloads. And it has been updated 3 days ago, which is quite a good thing. So look at the has a home page, and actually looks quite complete. Lots of different advertising really sections for the product, and they've also invested in documenting, so there's quite a lot of documentation available as far as I can see. And then it also has a Git repository. Now if we look at the general description for this one, combining the about in the repository with other input, then it's a GUI toolkit for embedded and desktop applications, uses a declarative language for describing UIs, supports multiple rendering backends. That's the description. And some of the main features is that it's multi-OS platform. Yep, yes it is. I'm only looking at Windows at this point in time. Native look and feel on Windows? No, you can, as I'll show in the demonstration, it's not really that. And then web application support, no, it doesn't support web application at all. I'll just take a brief look at the crates.io index to make sure that the actual version that they state is actually published, so it seems to be that way. Because in some instances I've noticed there can be a discrepancy between this list and what's reported here. So if we have a look at the Git stats, then the latest available version is 1.13.1, and that's actually reflected in the master branch list somewhat. So you see you have master 1.1.3, and then there is actually a comment here. Now, one of the things that I've noticed is that when you have this GitHub branches and the actual indexed releases, that sometimes in projects they don't match, so you don't necessarily have an exact branch name that matches. So, but that's more to do with administrator. And then it has 20.4 kilostars. That's quite good. And then the development activity can be considered active development. So let's have a look at the code then. It does require the latest version of the Rust C compiler, which is at the time of making this video was 1.82. Let's see. And it does have one dependency, which is Slint, so you need to have that defined. Otherwise, there's nothing. There's no special build RS file for it. And then if we look at the code, so the way this works is that it's like some other ones that we've looked at, you have kind of boilerplate wrapper code around things, and then you actually have the code that defines the UI. And I've actually done the same trick that I did with the others. So this source code will be posted to my GitHub, and then with the reference to it, so you can find it. So you come into main, and then it defines a new message box, and then it creates a callback action. What happens if there's a callback? And yeah, simple set message, and then you close it, and then it sets it to invisible, and then so that's more like. But the main logic is in the in here. So here where it actually starts to define the structure of the UI. So you have different entities that it creates here to actually define the mess. And this is it uses the same structure for defining all UIs. So different types of blocks with the different metadata. So I've gone through and commented most of it related to this example. And then of course now you're saying, hey, but that looks this stuff looks really it doesn't even look like it's really Rust, and you're actually you're actually right. So I think I'm going to just emphasize. So an Slint macro is used to convert the Slint markup. The markup is usually in a similar format like CSS or QML, and then it actually takes this block, and then it actually does a recompile of it to actual Rust code. So that's why when we were looking at this section, you're looking at, this doesn't, what is this stuff? Some of it doesn't really look totally rusty. So that's how it works. So as I said, then it's like an internal, Slint has its own internal language for describing UIs and the interaction, and to create the callback logic and stuff. Yeah, no, it's just build it first, just to make sure nothing's happened since I last tested this. But there is one comment I have that it actually, it takes a relatively long time to compile, even if this is just a simple message box app. I think it's because it has to do all these layered post-processing of the, at first it takes the markup language and then it converts that in its own compiler tool set, and then it has to actually submit that to the Rust compiler to actually get the final solution. So anyway, here we got the output. Let me say show message, and this is a message box, and then close it, and then close it. So it's all kind of also embedded in one like frame, so it kind of has this frame thinking. So at least when it comes to this example that I created. And so as you see, it's not really Windows native looking, but it depends on, again, like I've said before, it depends on what kind of application you're building, if this is a benefit or a drawback. So I hope you enjoyed that brief overview, and as I said, I'll post this example to my GitHub with a reference to it in the comments. And let's continue hacking.